So thanks everyone for coming. I guess to listen to me yap a bit. But my name's Gabe or Gabriel or Gab, whatever's easiest for y'all. And I'm a researcher here at Jensen. Before being at Jensen, I was a researcher at Amazon. And before that, I was doing my PhD in a field called algorithmic economics, where essentially I studied incentives and how multiple agents working together in economics type settings with those sorts of incentives can be what they do, with how they behave, and that sort of thing. Before that, I was a mathematician, so I've joked that I've gotten gradually more useful with time. But anyhow, that's the TLDR on me.
You've gotten slightly more useful over time, I would say.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, still a little useless, but useful. Can't fix a car, but we can
Neither
talk
can
about
I.
ants.
So I can't fix a car either, so don't worry about that. And let's talk about the ants thing because this has started quite a controversy. So I think for context for everyone, we've always used the bee, the swarm. We've always kind of done the bee thing, which has been amazing. And we've used that as representation for RL Swarm, the greater Jensen community. One day, Gabe pinged me on Slack and was like, look, ants are actually a way better way to describe this. And I'm like, okay, but you're going to probably drive half our community crazy if we switch from a bee to an ant. And he's like, good, I want to do that. And so he put out a tweet thread describing how ants made more sense as a representation than bees. Do you kind of want to just break down what you were talking about in that tweet thread for us, real quick?
Sure. Um, yeah. So basically, and I'll also cap this off with why still G swarm in my opinion. So I think that was another very natural follow up question people kept asking. But yeah, so the short is I get why everyone went bees. Bees are the first thing you think of when you think of swarms. Um, but bees, ants, birds, fish, all these things fall under this umbrella called swarm intelligence, which falls under an even bigger umbrella called collective intelligence. But within swarm intelligence, there's different ways of organizing things. Swarm intelligence as a concept is essentially lots of simple agents, or it doesn't they don't have to be simple, but usually they're simple, who interact in some very straightforward, simplistic mechanism, and this leads to some sort of emergent collaboration between them. And there's lots of mechanisms for doing this. Are one such way of doing this, and what they do is something called well, they do. There's a few different ways bees do this. They're very cool. I'd recommend going to look at it. There's a really cool researcher at CU Boulder who called or Peleg, who does a lot of work on bees. Go look at her work in fireflies. Really cool stuff. Anyway, I'll stop yapping in that direction. I'll get distracted. But bees do this thing called waggle dancing. It's their most famous kind of swarming. They basically all come back to their hive. They waggle in the direction that they really think food is. Someone else can come and headbutt them and make them stop, and they go shut up essentially. Um, but yeah, anyway, so that's the bee way of doing this. They all come back to the hive. There's like a central location. Everyone coordinates around this. It's all about fervor and really being confident in where you want to go rather than something that's kind of building through time. Eventually, more bees go check out your area. They come back and waggle in the same direction, that sort of thing. Ants, by contrast, use a mechanism called stigmergy. Basically, they go look for food, and wherever they go, they just leave a pheromone trail, and then they try to look for food as they go, and they tend to look for where other people have taken their pheromone trail. So the more ants that go in the same area, the more pheromones there are, the stronger that path, the more they all start to go in that direction. Eventually, you get these big lines of bees going in the same direction. They coordinate that way. No one's actually talking to one another. There's no central location. If the first bee that went that direction died, the pheromone trail is still there. The RL swarm as it exists today is very similar to that, where basically your model is just spitting out stuff, sharing it with the swarm. Other people take it and they say, is that good or bad? If it's good, they say, okay, let's absorb that. We'll try to take those insights. And then they start spitting out things that are more like that, which is kind of like that pheromone trail. They're not directly doing the same thing. They're not spitting out the same exact thing, but something like it. And then other people will pick that up and they start to consume it if it seems good to them. And with time, these sort of weak signals that are like a way of reasoning, a way of reaching a conclusion on a type of problem start to accumulate and they propagate throughout the swarm. Eventually, everybody's doing that thing. to some degree. Not exactly the same way, but something along those lines.
Okay,
I don't know
I'm
if
gonna
that
pause you
made
for a
much sense,
second.
but yeah.
It made a little bit of sense because I already know a lot of this information and I lost you for a moment there. So I appreciate this. This is helpful. Can you give me a bit more detail on the direct contrast then? I think from a higher level, let's start a little bit higher level here because this was really good background information. Looking at just the way that the bees interface versus the ants interface, could you give me a bit more of an overview on that specifically? We started to talk about the pheromones and how they populate, but could you even take a more granular perspective on it and give me the walkthrough on that? Because that's incredibly helpful for understanding the transition here. Now that ants seem to be taking over everything, and there's pictures of ants with your face on them in the chat, so people are clearly following this. But if you want to give me a bit more detail on that, and then ants and thongs, so you're really starting a trend here, bro. So yeah, just give me a bit more detail on that.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess like I guess it'll be useful. Maybe I'm not missing your question, but I guess it'll be useful to say what would it look like if this was instead more bee-like than ant-like, right? If it was
Correct,
more
and maybe with some
bee-like,
context of the comparatives as well.
okay. Yeah. So let's imagine a bee-like RL swarm. What would happen is your model would show up to the swarm and start going, "Hey, mine is the best, mine is the best, mine is the best, mine is the best," and keep repeating that until someone either says "shut up" or goes, "Yeah, that is the best, that is the best," and they keep doing that. They would be focusing on a single answer to a single question. By contrast, in RL Swarm, all that's happening is it doesn't matter what question you got, you just spit out your answers. And as you start spitting out your answers, other people go, actually, that's a good way of solving math questions. And so they'll pick up that technique for solving math questions, right? You might be doing long division, I'll start doing long division. You might be doing some little multiplication trick, I'll start doing that as well. That sort of thing. So it's instead of just hyper focusing on one answer, one way of doing things, and trying to get everyone to go that way, you just kind of do your thing and look at other people and go, oh, actually, let me borrow some of that. It's a little subtle, I know. So I just don't want to be yapping down the bee ant analogies too
No,
deeply.
this is good. I mean, I'm genuinely curious about this as well because I get background information that everyone here doesn't. All they get is what we tweet out and then whatever messages I manage to reply to while I'm having my morning coffee. So I think there's a lot of information gap that people have, that the point of this right now is to try and fill that. So I think these 700 people are actually here to hear you yap. So don't feel
Okay.
bad about don't feel bad about doing that. Ben can talk for about 20 minutes straight. So you got some tough competition when it comes to talking without taking a breath. Anything else on that specific? I think what I'm curious about and the people here then is we consider what this transition might be, because I think the community itself really identified with the bee. And so as we
Mhm.
start to identify with what an ant could be, what are then some of the other characteristics or personality traits or the ways that they behave that then make this more conducive for how we operate as a swarm? And then is there anything that you could elaborate then on how that might impact anything that might be being built by us? And if you can't answer the last question, that's okay.
Yeah. So okay. So it's not so much that it's not B or that it is ant or something along those lines. It's more so it's just more like ant than B, which is why again I forgot to wrap back to why it's still G swarm. So they're all under the under the umbrella of G swarm, and I think eventually we will use ant-like mechanisms for certain things. It's just that currently the thing that we're tackling is s- it's an area called RLVR. It's what's really hot in LLMs right now, and the idea is you need to have reinforceable signals, and you don't want to get hung up on one thing. Eventually, though, and something that I'm particularly interested in is working on decision making. In decision making, there sometimes is not a lot of alternatives. You can't just keep spitting out like it's not interesting to keep spitting out like different decisions when there's one obvious decision. In those sorts of situations, we might start exploring more bee-like mechanisms where it's all about me going chest out. This is my solution. You should look at this. Otherwise, we are all doomed. Right. So if you're thinking like in an application like poker and you're doing swarm models for playing poker or something, um, you don't want just to take just to explore any possibility. You're going to go broke before anything else. In poker, you want to have the best model really make a scene and go, you to make my decision. It's time to bet high. We have a good hand, and make sure other people get on board with that. Eventually, we'll probably start incorporating a lot of these sorts of philosophies behind our collective, and that's where I kind of wanted to lead with this. Why is it still G Swarm? It's not about ants. It just is like ants right now. If you really like bees, if you really like fish, if you really like birds, at some point we'll probably start using something that looks a little more like that as well. We ultimately want to move more towards collective intelligence. RL Swarm is the simplest thing that we will have in some sense. And ants have that beauty. The beauty that ants have is their simplicity. They're not as complex of creatures as bees. And one ant is not very much, but the collective is really powerful. Right now, it's our focus. We're working with 0.5B Quens and these little models. But with time, we want to scale up. We want to have them do more complex things. We want to enhance their power and really make each individual model shine more rather than the collective of models work together to shine. I don't know if
Okay,
that
that
that,
makes
that
sense.
answers the question.
That did actually tie some things together. I'm going to throw a couple of other questions that loop into that for information that people might not have. I also just want to point out that this is about 100. This is about 200 people more than we've ever had in one of these AMAs. So I don't know what you're doing, Gabe, but the people love you because we have 750 people in here right now. It's absolutely insane.
Thanks, y'all.
I think we had like 450 for judge when we did the judge announcement. So you're breaking records here. I have a couple of questions that I'm going to get to, but even when looking at how this is going to get more complex, can you kind of break down when you say we're using small models, and can you kind of talk about what that actually means for people that might not have a full understanding of that? I think a lot of the people here, we probably are broken down into three buckets, which is very new to AI and ML, with very little background information, maybe some people that are familiar with it but not super technical, and then we have more of the technical crowd. Speaking particularly to the first two in that bucket, could you talk about what these models look like and why it's only going to get more complex over time?
Yeah, I think this is also a nice segue into the decentralized versus centralized AI paradigm as well. So yeah, right now, RL Swarm and a lot of what you've seen with Jensen has focused on these little models that are I throw out the name 0.5B Quen. So for context, 0.5b is a reference to the number of parameters in this model. And as a general rule, the thing that made ChatGPT so famous like 2-3 years ago at this point is they kind of they did a proof of concept of what we call scaling laws. For a long time, there was this big debate in AI, which was by AI standards, I'm a bit of an old timer. I've been around since like 2012, and there's been a lot of like turf wars going on for a while. Is it more should we do brain stuff? Should we do all artificial neural networks? What's the way to do this, right? One camp was always we just need more compute, bigger model, and more data. That was like their solution to everything, and everyone was like, "Wow, really? That's not very elegant." And then, but it works, right? It turns out it works. It's just kind of the thing. And every time they'd make things bigger, it'd get a little better, and we'd go, "Yeah, but it's going to cap off eventually. It's going to cap off eventually." OpenAI eventually showed no, if you keep going, it keeps getting better. I actually argue they are hitting a wall right now. That's actually something I'm going to talk about with the centralized versus decentralized stuff. But anyway, they kept growing, they kept building, they kept going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There's no real like sophistication to it. There's a technique called Transformer came out in 2017. All they did is they took that, they made some tweaks, and they added more GPUs than you can ever imagine, more parameters than you can ever imagine. This thing gets massive. Um, and it's more neurons, by the way, than the human brain at this point. It's insane. They're at the trillions, I believe. Um, and by contrast, the models that you're using at Jensen are 0.5 billion, so 500 million. These things are it's like trying to compare an ant versus a human brain, right? It just is not really on the same playing field to some degree. Right now, we've been focusing on these 0.5B models because we believe, and I think I can say this with confidence. By the way, all this is my opinion that I'm going to say, but I think it's pretty not a hot take to say that we believe everybody should have access to AI, and we believe that you should be able to run your model on your device. You don't need to use someone else's device and just say, "Yeah, I trust you to do it the way that you want." We believe that if you can't run it on your device, or you can't have them prove that they did it exactly the way they said they would, you shouldn't have to rely on that. So we've been focusing on these small models for that reason. We want to make sure you can run it on your laptop, a small machine. You don't need to get some H100 that costs hundreds of dollars. You don't need to get this like state of the art thing and go compete against Amazon to buy a server stack, right? That's insanity. That's not going to be sustainable. You're going to lose that race. So we can focus on the small models for now. Now, where does this go from here? Well, there's a few different angles to this. To contrast, the centralized AI approach is just we own all the devices, trust us. We're gonna put it all together, make it super tight. We're gonna take care of it. It's gonna be safe. Don't worry. Just pay us a little bit of rent. We'll give you the service, right? That's one approach. There's something somewhere in the middle, which is like, hey, we still need these really big models, but let's do some sort of democratized version of it where you take some part of the model, we all work together to parallelize the model essentially and build up a lot of small parts of the model together to build one big model. And then there's another approach, which is everybody has a whole model, but all those whole models can do a little something, which then gets the same sort of behavior as a big model. It's a little abstract, I know, but we want to kind of straddle that whole spectrum and explore what the right way is across that whole spectrum. Just right now, we're focusing on these small things because it seems like the thing that is missing for most people right now. The only way to get it is like if you do that sort of split up thing, it's very slow today. It requires a lot of work to build up and make a product out of it. No one's really cracked that problem in a way that makes it fun to use. But we have access to these small models, and we want to make sure that you can do something with them, right? It's not just hey, you get this small model, it's bad. Go pay OpenAI. Yeah, that's the short of it.
That is amazing. That is so cool. I didn't even know some of that. So thank you for sharing that. I want to take a quick moment. I have a couple of other things for you, just for all the folks that keep joining. We're at now 8:20, which is absolutely insane. Xavier, let's make sure to take a screen grab of all the people in the audience so we can make sure to possibly maybe get people something. I had a few questions that I wanted to address real quick, and then Gabe, I'm going to throw a couple more things at you if you're okay with that. You're on a roll, and it looks like Ben has actually jumped in real quick. I'll give Ben a moment because everyone's actually here to see him if he wants to say hi to folks real quick. We got about 825 in here, Ben.
Hey folks, yeah, I'm late for a call, so I'm jumping in very quickly to say hello and also to listen to Gabe very briefly. But yeah, it looks like it's going very well. We got a bunch of people in here, really cool. But yeah, I'm gonna have to run because I'm horribly late for a call. But thank you everyone for joining and Gabe for doing this. It seems like people are really enjoying it. So
Awesome.
yeah, really pleased.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ben.
Ben.
Which side are you on,
Goodbye.
Ben? Answer, please.
Ben said hello and goodbye. All right, he came to say hi, guys. But real quick, I wanted to address Pioneer program. Folks were asking about that. That will maybe possibly be opening up this week for the applications. I can't make any promises. I'm not in charge of that. Someone on our incredible moderator team is managing most of that. So for the folks that are asking about that, just know that they are thinking about that night and day for you guys. And then I saw some stuff about the block assistant in the game not getting any smarter. Yes, that is currently the case. Right now, block assist is designed to demonstrate the underlying technology of the reinforcement learning that you can do through that. So right now, it's not actually improving. There's a world in the future where that happens, but for right now, that is just a demonstration of the technology and how that actually operates in a real world setting. And so just know that with a lot of the products and things that are being pushed out, they are not in their final form, they are not in their final stage, and they are not the final demonstration of what the technology can do. So there's a lot more that you can actually do there, but just not quite yet. There's only so much we can do.
Do you mind if I touch on that real quick, Austin?
No, you can touch on everything. That's why we're here, bro.
Yeah. So let me just say I wanted to thank you all for everyone for kind of honestly putting up with us with some of these things have a little bit of friction. You guys are contributing to science kind of in the open. Um, it's new stuff. A lot of this stuff is just sort of like it's been proven out in small, very controlled settings, but you put it on the internet, strap it to thousands of other nodes, and try to serve it on a laptop, and things go sideways a little bit. So it takes a lot of calibrating, and you guys are on the frontier. This is the bleeding edge. When you interact with ChatGPT, you're probably interacting with something they figured out 6, 7 months ago. When you interact with a lot of these very polished products, it's been figured out for a while. It's already a research paper from 3 years ago, maybe. The way we're doing this is different. It's a frankly a little stressful from the research side. We're moving real fast. But this is to show you guys like, hey, we're figuring it out with you, and you guys contributing, you guys participating, and you doing it the way that not like if you try to participate with it earnestly and you engage with it earnestly, you are contributing to science. You will lead to publications, and yeah, we're gonna try and keep doing experiments. And each time we put a release out, even if it's not the final polished product, we are doing it for a reason. We're measuring something. I'm gonna try and do a better job in going forward to make that more public and say, hey, here's what we're measuring. So when you engage with this thing, it's gonna lead to a better product with time. We're gonna keep iterating on it and yeah, and improving on it. Block Assist is a very perfect example of this. Right now, it's not improving in the way that you would expect. But part of that is because of the limitation of running everything locally. In the laboratory settings the paper was working on, they had GPUs. They could do something called MCTS, which is a Monte Carlo tree search. And that's a very expensive process. It's actually the thing that's behind AlphaGo and so on. If you remember those big headlines in the 2017. Anyhow, so thank you for helping us make progress. It's one thing to do all this on like our machines with us within like 10 little machines together. It's another to do it at scale and see what happens, where things start to break and where things start to hit bottlenecks.
That's actually a really important point that I would love for you. Sorry to keep throwing this all at you, but people don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you. Can you touch a bit more on the sheer scale of actually what's happening with Gensyn right now? I don't think a lot of the folks in the community fully grasp just how bleeding edge what they're participating actually is. Could you just elaborate a bit more on how what we're doing right now is so incredibly groundbreaking and why it's so important?
Yeah. Um, yeah, so we're essentially doing a new thing. We're doing an iteration on the scientific process, so to speak. And or I guess the scientific method, not scientific process. I should be specific with that. Basically, the way that you traditionally would do science or you'd build these systems is you do it all in a very controlled setting. You see what happens. You change one little thing, see what happens. Change another thing, see what happens, and then you make a conclusion based on this sets of experiments on a very controlled small scale. And then you say, in theory, it should scale up indefinitely or whatever, right? This works for very closed systems. But when we're talking about decentralized AI, swarms, collective intelligence, these sorts of things, they are inherently not closed systems. I can sit around and model your utility function all I like, but it's never going to capture your real utility function, your real incentives. That's actually I'm not going to say it's a problem. It's one of those things that like we rely on for theoretical economics. Is that we assume the system's essentially closed, but in real life that's not true, right? You have yes, you're engaging with RL Swarm, but you have your food to pay for, and you have to get to work. You have to do all these other things. There's other incentives that live outside of this small bubble. And so, without experimenting in the open, we have no way of actually measuring how those things interact with the thing we measured in a closed setting. So, how we've been approaching this is a little different from that usual thing where it's just sort of like you do everything very tight, very closed, and they just publish it and then move on to the next thing and hope someone builds it, or we build it and then see it doesn't work. We've been doing both kind of simultaneously, and we're dialing in this process, by the way. It's not perfect. We're learning to do it the same way that you guys are with us. But we're trying to do both at the same time, which is essentially, yes, we're doing those closed. You saw this with Taco. We have those very closed, tight knit sort of experiments that are very controlled. It's within like 8 machines, whatever. It's a little proof of concept. It shows what can happen if everyone's doing everything perfectly. And by perfectly, I mean just the way that it was intended, so to speak. Versus we then put this out and 100, I don't even know what the metric is right now, Austin. I don't know how many models have been trained on RL Swarm. And we have to ask.
We're about to hit 800,000 models in total. We're over 600,000 models in RL Swarm. Or just
Exactly.
over 100,000 on RL Swarm. Just saying too, between RL Swarm and Block Assist, we're at like 700, 750, and I really want to hit that million mark. So we're going to keep doing things to try to get that there, but it's so close.
That's insanity. Right? That's 1,000. That's 100,000x what I trained while testing this stuff out, like in a lab sort of setting. And so, on the way, we saw things happen that we were like, oh, well, I didn't expect that. And vice versa. We said, oh, that actually worked better in the setting than it did in the little small setting. I'll give some concrete examples of that here with RL Swarm. So something that happened that we were like, oh, yeah, that's kind of obvious in hindsight was when we first released it, we noticed that after a little while, models started to collapse. That's because when we did all of our experiments, I would run it for 1,000 rounds, let's say, 10,000 rounds, maybe in the closed laboratory setting. We didn't think about what happens if you have 1,000 people running for 10,000, and then eventually somebody's model does something really crazy, and that propagates, and everyone just kind of starts imitating it, which then propagates, and then everyone kind of crashes at the same time. We then went back and figured that out a little bit and started massaging it. Then we had to go through that iteration process, learning what happens at scale. The same thing with scale. The other direction, it's like, oh, this actually worked better at scale than the other way around is we saw that in the lab setting, the way that we were filtering samples coming from the swarm, the way that we were filtering out and saying, what should your model ingest? One way that worked really well in the lab setting was to take the thing with max reward and then add a little bit of noise to that. Turns out that when there's thousands of people in the swarm at any given time generating things, taking that max is actually biasing towards the simplest problems. And that's not good either, right? Everyone's model eventually gets really good at simple math equations. And what they really need is something that's a little harder for them. So it turns out just even random sampling made a big difference when you move to these larger scales. So yeah, anyway, so thank you guys for helping us improve things and see where they start to buckle when you have this level of scale that you really can't simulate, or really you can't really anticipate when you're doing it in a closed setting. And yeah, we're going to get better at this process. We're going to tighten the loop, and we're going to just learn to move fast.
Well said. Yeah, and it only continues to scale from here. Right now we're hitting a rate of growth that when I look at the data, I used to look at it like once a week, and now I'm looking at it every day. But the day over day, the week over week growth is just absolutely insane right now. The scale at which we're seeing these things grow is exponential. So thank you to everyone who's participating in this. Thank you to all 925 of you. That is absolutely insane. Who are in here listening right now. Couple of comments real quick, Gabe, and then I'm going to let you keep going. We see all the questions in the comments. We have a couple of people watching the chat, so don't worry. We see it. It's being documented. We're going to try and get to it. We only have about 10, 15 minutes left, if that. Just want to be cognizant of Gabe's time. But just know that if your questions are being tossed in there, we are seeing them. They are not being lost. And so I know people are spamming that chat like crazy, but we are seeing everything that's coming through. Gabe, I'm getting a couple of questions about the decentralization aspect and how we look at security as we continue to scale. Do you kind of want to just touch base broadly on how, as a company, we think about that?
Yeah. Let me also add, we're going to run out of time today, almost certainly, but I promise to do more of these in the future if people are interested, and we can make them more targeted in the future as well. We'll get to everyone's question.
I think they're interested.
So we can make it happen. So don't worry, folks. We'll get to the questions. But yeah, security. That is actually that's a really big topic. We've been thinking about it tremendously internally. We have folks who that's their bread and butter on the research team. They really want to focus on it. Security is a bit odd though, right? So it's super important, but building secure systems requires understanding the attack surface and the use case. And there's another thing that makes it kind of odd that's a little odd with our setting in particular, being in Web3 and a blockchain space. It's that sometimes security is built in a traditional sense where we make it not possible to do something, or rather we try to make it not possible to do something. In other times, the way to make things secure in this space is to make it not good for you to attack us, essentially. It's like, sure, yeah, you could try. I mean, you're going to hurt yourself, maybe one other person, a handful of other people, but it's going to be super expensive for you. You're going to run out of steam faster than it actually hurts the system in a significant way. That's the other way you build security into these sorts of systems. And with swarms, with collective intelligence, with decentralized AI, it's tricky to figure out which is the right mechanism for the right problem. And we have to straddle the two, and we have to kind of first see where things buckle, what people do, and then start to add it in. Obviously, we do it within constraints, right? So a good example of this is as we look at code, we don't want to let people run arbitrary code on your machine. That's just reckless. That's not safe. That's just it's just not a good idea. But with Swarm, for example, like we need to be careful. It's like how do you filter what goes into the Swarm, what you don't. We've been working on techniques for it, but yeah, it's tricky to have the silver bullet before you see kind of how people engage with it, because attackers frankly have the advantage over defense. Defense has to try and block all the holes they know. Attackers just need to find one hole, and then we have to identify it quick and then patch that hole and keep repeating this process. So I know it's an unsatisfactory answer, but basically we're thinking about it deeply. It's very case by case dependent, on where we're going with something, and we have to find the right balance between moving fast, innovating, testing, and keeping people safe and keeping people aligned, because that's at some point also security ends up making it so that you can't even do the tests right. It just starts to flood the system, and bad actors make it so that the system can't behave the way you can't test things you want to test. So yeah, we're also figuring that out is the short answer. And with as we rope in incentives, as we start to work in proper economic incentives, proper model incentives, like you want your model to grow and be better in a specific way. As we start to add locality, as we start to add proper security patches, like filtering and judging and arbitration, zero knowledge proofs, this sort of thing. I think it's going to come. It's going to come quite naturally as you learn where the system needs to scale. Is kind of where I'm trying to say.
Gabe, you were absolutely on fire. I got distracted and totally looked away from something for a second, so I got lost in my questions. Xavier, Judson, do you guys have any questions that you're looking at that you want to toss out at Gabe right now? I got distracted for a moment, so I lost my momentum. Also, by the way, for the folks who do not know, the couple of other people on stage, I want to give a quick thank you and shout out to Blazy. He is the Blazy emoji thing. He has been managing all of our events. He's the one that helps organize all the AMAs, the contests, all of that for you guys. So everyone give him a little bit of love in the chat real quick, because he's been doing an absolutely incredible job. He's the reason you guys have t-shirts, swag, all that stuff you're getting. He is the guy behind that. Xavier is the guy with the thing with the duck on his head. He helps manage so much of the community. He's the one that keeps the Discord running. He's the one that keeps things in good shape for you guys. So everyone give him a little bit of love. And then Judson is the cat, and he is the newest hire on my team, and he just finished as of yesterday a complete revamp of our entire documentation. So he's working on making it as easy as possible for you guys to be able to interface with Gensyn, the technology, all the products, RL Swarm, Block Assist, Judge, and maybe something else that might be coming soon-ish, maybe, possibly. But he's making sure that it's as easy for you guys to get all that figured out. And he kind of came on as like a DevRel documentation person. So he is here to make sure that you guys have as easy of a time interfacing with our products as possible. So let's give all of them a little bit of love, because they are doing so much incredible work behind the scenes to make this as seamless for you guys as possible. And just want to thank all of you guys who are in the community. 950 people. We didn't quite hit 1,000. Maybe we will, but 952 is absolutely insane. So just thank you guys for being a part of this. You are involved with something that is so bleeding edge, so cutting edge right now, that it's just incredible. So you guys should be super, super proud and stoked for yourself as well. With that in mind, Justin, Judson, Xavier, any questions that we want to throw at Gabe real quick, maybe for the last 5 minutes here? Maybe we'll take like 1 or 2 more. And if you guys just stay silent, I'm going to throw some stuff. Oh, thank you, Judson.
Sure thing. Yeah, let's see here. There's a couple that I did want to definitely throw at Gabe. I also just wanted to kind of tack on a little bit to what you were saying. Obviously, we have a lot of people running nodes with RL Swarm, and to just kind of tack on to the docs revamp, we did just release completely revamped RL Swarm documentation, which includes a lot of the troubleshooting and information from the community guides that have been kind of circulated around. We've sort of taken everything that we know about like the issues that people experience, whether it's something like connection issues or the training failures, Docker stuff as Docker, finding logs, everything that we've basically been kind of answering as a community for the community about RL Swarm, and really just created a pretty comprehensive troubleshooting guide. So here, I'm actually going to pop this in the chat, but I would definitely say I'd recommend people just give that a quick look if you guys are experiencing anything right now. I think there's going to be a lot of good answers in there. So yeah, just want to kind of a quick nod to that. And then I did have a couple of questions. Let me just go ahead and find the one that I was looking for.
Awesome. Yeah. Make sure you guys check out the docs. Judson spent essentially the past 2 or 3 weeks revamping the entire thing for you guys. It should be really easy now for you to go and get involved and start getting everything spun up. And to answer a couple of the questions that yeah, don't forget to show some love from Austin. Thanks, Gabe. Austin's great. But to answer one thing that I did see in there, I saw something about block assist, time spent in game. Do you need to get to 100%? And I think for all of the products, the advice and suggestion that I would give to people is we just encourage you to try them out. There is no criteria, there's no right, there's no wrong. The best thing you can do is just get involved. So it's not about getting 100%, but it's a matter of just getting your node spun up, like contributing to the swarm, contributing to block assist, and right now Judge is going on. So we hit a new all-time high of 42,200 people that were actively voting in the last Judge market. I would love to break that record for this week. The market ends Friday morning Pacific Standard Time, so West Coast in the United States. And I would love to break that record. So if everyone here, if you're not like, ping Judson, he's the cat picture. Sorry, I'm going to do this to you, Judson. But if you need help setting up a node, ping him, send him a DM. I will block off hours of his time today and tomorrow to answer all of you guys to get you all spun up. Let's get nodes up and running. Let's get you involved with Judge. We have 950 people here. There's no reason that each of you should not be running a node and actively participating in Judge. This week we did a prediction market honoring Diwali. So we know that ended next week. We know a lot of our folks in our community were celebrating that. So just as thank you guys, we were doing something a little special there. So make sure you get up and running. And if you have any issues, ping Judson. And let's do, and we're actually already at 8:38. So unless we have something super critical, Judson, I might just call it short there and give Gabe a moment to say goodbye to his newfound fan base that's developed here.
Sure. Yeah, there's just one question that I could just answer really quickly, and then I could turn it over.
Go for it.
There was one question about Gensyn, about the RL swarm, and what mechanism we have that ensures that nodes contribute high quality reasoning outputs and are rewarded for that, and the ones that are submitting random or poor answers are penalized without a centralized judge. So I just want to just say, so each node participates in a few different ways. Each node answers and critiques others on the problems, and then bets on the outputs that it thinks are correct. So we don't have a centralized judge because all of the different nodes are basically contributing to both the problem solving and the verification or the vetting of those answers, and then the betting on them, the likelihood of those answers being correct. So good reasoning, accurate bets, those are the ones that get rewarded, and the random ones, the random ejections, the bad answers, those ones lose stake. So the swarm can kind of naturally rewards better answers and can kind of filter out noise. I don't know if yeah, that's basically that. I don't know if you want to add anything on to that, Gabriel, but yeah, I can go ahead and turn that over.
Oh man,
Yeah,
he used
so-
his full name. Whew, sounds so serious.
in trouble. No, I was going to say the only thing I would add to that is essentially is that the setting here is RLVR, reinforcement learning with verifiable rewards. So when somebody gives gobbledygook and it gets a bad reward, but the whole setting is very constrained to that right now. So it's just like you need to have a well-defined thing that says, given an answer, can I verify yes or no? Is it good? And when you give something that's nonsense, actually your model will consume it, but it'll consume it with the exact opposite signal where it goes, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. If it sees something that has a good answer, it will ingest that as well and go more of that, and it starts to reinforce things in that direction. Yeah, but everything Judson said is correct, by the way. And yeah, we're going to keep iterating on these sorts of ideas.
Alrighty. Oh man, 40 minutes, 952. We didn't quite hit 1,000. I still love you guys. I just have something that I want to do
Next time.
now to hit 1,000. I don't know what we're gonna do, but we're gonna figure something out. Xavier, did we get a snapshot?
Oh yes, yep.
Okay, cool. We got a
uh,
snapshot for you guys.
everybody
Thank you
involved.
all. Thank you
Let me
guys.
chime in real
Picture-
quick with one thing. You mentioned
go.
earlier, Austin, the best way to engage and best way to like how do you get the most points, that sort of thing. Honestly, like when we think about this internally, everything that we design is around the idea of how do we get people to be incentivized to engage with this product earnestly. There's no hidden message. There's no, you don't need to read the tea leaves. It's just sort of like with block assist, play Minecraft. With RL Swarm, get your model to train. Just try to get a good model. And if you engage with it that way, engage with it earnestly, honestly, that's the way that we're going to get the best scientific results. That's the way that we're going to iterate the fastest. That's the way it's best for you as well. We want to design a system. Like, the point of decentralized AI is that we want to design a system where you doing what's best for you is what's best for the system. So if you're not sure what's best for you, try to do what's best for the system in some sense. It will all work out if you just engage with it that way. It's nothing, no big brain strategy to get around it, frankly. Yeah.
All right, and I think you've also given yourself another job. I feel like I'm just going to get you to record. I'm getting Ben to do this too, but I'm just going to get you to record this, and then we're going to put this up as content because it sounds like you have a really soothing voice when you're like, play block assist, just play Minecraft. I'm like, oh, that would do so well on Twitter. 964. I can't believe we're cutting this off as this continues to go up. Usually we start to see the numbers drop, but everyone just wants to come hang out with us. 966. This is painful to stop, but we have to stop it. I know Gabe's got things to do. 968. I just want to say 970. This is painful, but I just want to say thank you guys. Truly, this has been absolutely insane. I think we have doubled the amount of people that we've had on any one of these before. I think the most we had was maybe 400. When we announced Judge with Ben and Harry from the team, and for some reason you guys just absolutely love Gabe. We have 972 in here right now. We got so close to hitting 1,000. We're not going to quite hit it this time, but that's okay. It gives me something to work for next time. But we took a snapshot. So just know, as always, participating in the AMAs, getting involved in the community in this way, we do our best to show that love back to you guys. And you have my Discord. Let's save Gabe's Discord. He'll come and talk to you guys in audio, but let's try and not blow up his inbox. So I would say use myself, Blazy, Xavier, and Judson. Message us, primarily Blazy, Xavier, and Judson. Message them. But if you have questions that weren't answered, you have things you're still curious about, you need help getting up and running and getting involved with RL Swarm, like, we are here to support you guys. We're here to help. And so I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you guys. You guys should just be so proud and stoked that you're involved with this. So congratulations on getting involved early. Gabe, any last words for all 980 of your fans?
Just thank you all for coming. I'm really like it means a lot. I really appreciate all of y'all engaging with this. I get to do really cool research in a way that is really new and cool, and that I didn't expect to ever be able to do, because you guys are here to support us and engage with these products. It really means a lot. Final remarks are just, go Team Ant, and then also, I promise I'm not ignoring you. If you do message me on DMs, I'm just really bad at notifications. I will sometimes ignore my own wife because I'm really bad at notifications. So yeah, just let you know.
Amazing. Well, yeah, thank you guys so much. Let's just give it up for you guys in the chat real quick. Everyone just spam that for about 30 seconds before we close this out. Just a big congratulations to you guys for everything you've done. I think now's your time to show some love to everyone for everything you're doing. We've also taken a ton of the images. I just want to say those are hilarious. Thank you guys for making them. There've been some really funny ones in there, and we have seen them, and we really appreciate it. And just thank you guys so much. Love you guys. Thank you for everything you're doing. And I can't believe we're closing this out at 985. This is painful, but we have to do it. So next time we're going to hit 1,000. I'll bring in some more special guests. We might have some announcements to make, but just know that the Pioneer program will likely be going live this week. There will be an announcement about that then. And for questions, support getting set up, ping Xavier, ping Blazy, ping Johnson. they're happy to support you guys in any way that they can. And thank you guys for everything. And we will see you again soon. And with that, I think we're out. Everyone, Blazy, Xavier, Judson, any last words as we cut it?
Just that was absolutely insane.
Yeah, thank you everyone so much for the turnout. This was awesome and just a great confidence boost. And really appreciate all the questions. We did track a bunch of them, so I think we'll try to answer some of those questions off the call. But thank you to everyone who participated and to everyone who asked questions. This is some really great feedback, and we're so happy to be able to show up like this for you guys and vice versa. So much love.
And we'll do another one
Alrighty.
soon.
Awesome. Love you guys. Let's cut it, Blazy. Bye, guys.